Imagine an enemy so powerful he can topple governments, yet so invisible that for 30 years, the world's most elite intelligence agencies didn't even know what he looked like. For 3 decades, the CIA, Mikosi, and the Mossad were hunting a ghost. They had his name, Markus Wolf, and they had his title, head of the HVA, East Germany's Foreign Intelligence Service, but they didn't have a single photograph. In the high-stakes chess match of the Cold War, he was the ultimate zero-day vulnerability. This is not just a history lesson. Today, in our cybercrime documentary series, we are peeling back the layers of the original social engineer. Markus Wolf didn't use lines of code to breach firewalls. He used human psychology to breach hearts and minds. He understood a truth that modern hackers use every single day. The weakest link in any security system isn't the software. It's the person sitting at the keyboard. I'm the digital sleuth. And today, we are going into the shadows to see how the man with no face laid the blueprint for the digital threats we face today. From dark web scams to the most sophisticated phishing attacks in history, Markus Wolf wasn't born a spy. He was forged by the fires of the 20th century's greatest horrors. Born in 1923 to a Jewish German family, his life changed the moment Hitler took power. His father was a prominent anti-Nazi writer, which made them primary targets. They fled to Moscow, seeking refuge. Growing up in the Soviet Union, Wolf didn't just learn a language. He learned a worldview. He watched how the early Soviet security apparatus didn't just monitor people. They managed narratives. He witnessed firsthand how states build stories, how they mobilize people, and how they surveil. By the time he returned to a shattered Germany in 1945, Wolf was a weapon of pure intellect. At only 30 years old, he was tasked with building the HVA. While the rest of the world focused on tanks and nuclear silos, Wolf was focused on something much more dangerous: information. He knew that if you control the flow of data, you control the state. He built his agency on a radical philosophy. He didn't want thugs or James Bond types. He wanted intellectuals, people who could blend into the background, the invisible ones. He understood that the greatest weapon of the modern world was knowledge, and the ability to use it before others could. This is where the story turns from a spy thriller into a blueprint for modern cybercrime. Wolf's most infamous tactic was the Romeo operation. Think about a modern dark web scam or a catfishing operation. An attacker creates a fake persona, targets a lonely individual, and slowly extracts money or data. Markus Wolf was doing this in the 1,960 seconds with terrifying precision. He didn't target the generals or the chancellors because they were too well guarded. Instead, he targeted the unseen pillars of government: the secretaries, the administrative assistants, and the file clerks. They had the keys to the kingdom, but no one was watching them. The HVA developed a reputation for being precise and subtle. Wolf focused on identities, relationships, vulnerabilities, and emotional needs. He knew that to acquire secrets, you have to understand the people who protect them. The mechanics of the human fish were simple but deadly. First, reconnaissance. Wolf scouts would identify single, lonely women working in sensitive West German offices. Then came the bait. He would send a Romeo, a handsome, well-mannered agent, to accidentally meet them at a park or a cafe. These weren't just one-night stands. These agents would date and sometimes marry their targets for years to ensure the exploit worked. Once trust was absolute, the agent would ask for a favor. Information flowed, not because of manipulation alone, but because the emotional connection made the exchange feel like loyalty, not betrayal. By the time the West realized what was happening, Wolf had a spy in the office of the West German Chancellor himself, Gunther Guillaume. When Guillaume was finally caught in 1974, it didn't just reveal a spy. It toppled the entire government. Chancellor Willy Brandt was forced to resign. That is the power of a successful social engineering attack. It doesn't just steal data. It destroys the foundation of trust. You might be thinking, that was 50 years ago. What does this have to do with me? Everything. Marcus Wolf's Romeo agents were the analog ancestors of today's cyber espionage. Today's threat actors use the same psychological triggers: fear, urgency, curiosity, and trust. In a modern cybercrime documentary context, we see this in business email compromise. This is financial fraud mechanics at its finest. Hackers don't hack the CEO. They spoof his email and trick a lower-level accountant into wiring millions. We also see it in internet mysteries and dark web scams. Attackers study social movements in intellectual circles just like Wolf did to craft the perfect bait. Look at major phishing attacks like the 2016 DNC hack or recent Google and Facebook scams that cost over $100 million. These weren't just technical breaches. They were failures of human protocol. Wolf understood that power loses its effectiveness the moment it seeks recognition. Today's most dangerous hackers operate in the same silence. Whether it's state-sponsored groups or underground cartels running Phishing-as-a-Service, they are all students of the man with no face. They understand that a human being is the most vulnerable port in any network. So, how do we protect ourselves from the ghosts of Marcus Wolf? Whether you're a government official or just someone trying to protect your bank account, the rules of the human firewall are the same. First, verify the source. If you receive an urgent request, whether it's a romantic partner asking for money or a boss asking for a password, stop. Use out-of-band verification. Second, practice digital minimalism. Social engineers love reconnaissance. The more you post about your job and your life, the easier it is for an attacker to build a Romeo persona tailored to you. Third, understand cybersecurity protocols and implement zero trust. Never assume a user is who they say they are, even if they seem to be inside the network. Use multi-factor authentication. This is the ultimate counter to stolen credentials. It is the one thing Wolf's agents never had to face. If you are compromised, isolate your systems immediately. Change all credentials and report the fraud to international agencies like the IC3. Marcus Wolf lived long enough to see the wall fall and the Stasi dissolve. He went from being a nameless shadow to a man facing a courtroom, but his face, the one the West couldn't find for 30 years, now serves as a warning. In the digital age, we are all visible. We are all data points. And as long as there are secrets worth keeping, there will be people like Wolf trying to find the human way in. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the history of social engineering and cybercrime, hit that subscribe button. We have more stories from the digital front lines coming your way. Stay curious. Stay skeptical. And most importantly, stay secure. This has been the Digital Sleuth. Signing off.